My one-legged grandfather was in a bad mood when we visited one day. As we were preparing to leave, he said, "Maybe next time I see you, I'll be in a better mood. Maybe my leg will have grown back." I've thought about Papa a lot over the past several months as we collectively yearn for a better tomorrow and reimagine what we perceive as a better yesterday. The Jewish concept of teshuvah, the central theme of our High Holy Days worship, reminds us to acknowledge and separate our past and our future, to celebrate, to accept our imperfections. This year, we can especially appreciate that teshuvah is about more than making amends. Our lives have been disrupted. In years past, we might have acknowledged our missteps that caused emotional distancing. This year, we are also socially and physically distant for reasons beyond our control, uncertain of what tomorrow will bring. While we are one sacred community, today especially we feel separate. Today especially we seek shalom, peace, and shleimut, wholeness, amidst the chaos and uncertainty that physical distancing, which has come to define our daily lives. This year especially, we want to atone, to be at one. We desire return to our families, our friends, our work, our lives. Samson, our 5-year-old, is trying to invent a robot that will suck up all the COVID and shoot it into outer space. But it's hard to imagine a sudden return to life as it was before. I've heard us describe life as being on pause, that a resumption of our lives as they were before is imminent, an unwillingness to accept that the world has changed. But even with our best efforts and intentions, even with vaccines and cures and treatments, our lives and our world will never be the same. One of the fundamental principles of Reform Judaism is tikkun olam, our responsibility to repair the world. As the parent of a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old, I've tried to repair many broken objects. And I've learned that broken pieces often do not fit perfectly together. Kintsugi is a Japanese art of repairing broken pottery. Rather than using clear glue to make a broken object appear as it did when it was created, artists mix in powdered minerals with the adhesive, and the repair creates new art. Instead of aspiring to make our lives just as they were, without taking into account what we are all going through, glossing over the changes we have experienced, let us learn what the dark past has taught us and look towards the future with courage and faith and hope. Judaism calls upon us to look past the world as it is and to imagine a brighter future, the world as it should or could be. In our tradition, Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of the month of Av, is a day of grief and fasting in most of the Jewish world. We mourn the destruction of the first temple in the year 586 before the Common Era, and the second temple in the year 70 of the Common Era, and many other tragedies that have befallen the Jewish people throughout our history. But the Talmud infuses our grief with a modicum of hope. We read that Moshiach, our Redeemer, the person who is going to help us turn the world into the world it should be, the Moshiach will be born on Tisha B'Av and begin our return to the normal of the first and second temples. I'm not eagerly awaiting a return to the year 70 or even the year 1970. And like many Reformed Jews, I celebrate Tisha B'Av not as a day of sadness and mourning, but as the start of our diaspora, the beginning of our success as a Jewish community. We would not exist today as we do without our exile, without our brokenness, without the destruction of the temple. Our mourning rituals gently force us to confront our new reality when we first feel the absence of our loved ones. During Shiva, we collectively and intentionally fill the empty space that death has left behind. When we go to somebody's house where they're sitting Shiva, our presence reminds mourners that they are not alone as they confront the reality of their loss and begin to accept that their life, their normal, has changed irreversibly. At the conclusion of Shiva, there is a custom for mourners to leave their home, to walk around the block, to show the neighbors that they are entering the next stage of mourning, but to also remember that there is a larger world beyond their grief. Through atonement, teshuvah, and shiva, we seek imperfect restoration. We find beauty in imperfection instead of disappointment in the reality of change. While most congregations postponed the ceremonies where their children became bar and bat mitzvah this past spring, we celebrated 17 students becoming Jewish adults. One of them's even here this evening. As Cantor Debbie and I reflected upon our experience, we were both moved. I'm sorry to put words in her mouth, but hopefully she'll nod and agree with me. We were both moved by the shifting focus of the bar mitzvah experience and the bat mitzvah experience and the evolving nature of what it meant to become a bar bat mitzvah and what it meant to celebrate. Relatives who were too frail or too far away to attend, even before COVID, were able to participate in new and meaningful ways. Ways that we could have tried, but maybe hadn't really considered. During our services, we've welcomed participants and guests from Amsterdam, Senegal, Dubai, Mumbai, Israel, and even Long Island. They've been part of our simchas, and we've connected in ways we would have never imagined. We miss our freedoms. We miss the freedom to see who we want, when we want, where we want. We miss our physical connections, hugging friends and family in moments of joy and despair. We miss sitting and singing together in our sanctuary as we celebrate and find meaning and inspiration in ancient words and rituals and from just being here together. This year we are collectively in mourning. Many of us have experienced some or all of the stages of grief described by psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. We have questioned the veracity of reports or denied the seriousness of the pandemic. We are angry at elected officials, the media, our neighbors. Why don't they wear a mask? We have bargained. If only everyone would wear a mask, if only the government would let the stores open, if only our children were back at school. We are depressed, kept up at night, wondering when we will see and hug our friends and family. Will the uncertainty ever end, we ask? Let us aspire towards acceptance, the acceptance of learning a new way of life. Tikkun Olam is not a perfection of the world, it's a repair of the world. Teshuvah is an important part of the process of healing and repair. On Rosh HaShanah, we celebrate Yom Harat Olam, the day of the world's creation. And we accept that perfection is not our goal. Our prayer books offer an alternative reading to the Aleinu prayer that we will sing in a few moments, an expression of our hopes for the future. The time may be distant and the outcome uncertain, for how could suffering endemic to the human condition ever come to an end? Cessation of desire, relinquishing attachment, diminished expectations, all these might ease the pain of being alive. Or decide instead that you will continue to dream, hope, remain fiercely attached to bringing a better day, even if the outcome is uncertain and the time is very distant. In this era of COVID, as we sit and pray physically distant, may we accept and even find beauty in the reality of our imperfection. May we find inspiration in teshuvah, in returning, in accepting and celebrating the imperfections and uncertainties of our world. May we be filled with hope, not for a return to the world as it was, but for the world as it can be, that we may become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united. Amen.